how, as a defendant in more than one looming trial, Donald Trump is going out there, and he has every right to speak or defend himself and campaign. But what's really interesting, and some of this is quite new and recent, is how he has answered things he does not need to that could add to the evidence against him on criminal intent. These are statements that defense attorneys generally have heart attacks over. I say that with some poetic license, but if you are a good defense attorney and you look up and see your client publicly saying these kind of things, boy, are you going to freak out. Take a recent interview where Trump was pressed about the classified documents. The Smith indictment says he was not authorized to possess or retain those documents. But here's Trump saying he was entitled.
I'm allowed to have these documents. I'm allowed to take these documents, classified or not classified. I'm allowed to do what I want to do. I'm allowed to have documents. And frankly, when I have them, they become unclassified. People think you have to go through a ritual. You don't. And this shouldn't even be a case.
When I have them, they become unclassified might be the new Trumpian twist on if the president does it, it's not illegal. That was something that Nixon committed as a kind of a admission of his illicit and wrong view of presidential power. But mind you, Nixon did that long after he left office, and he was still talking about what a president can do. There you have Trump implying, and this is bad for his defense in the case, that even as an ex-president, if he has it, it can't be a crime. Legally, that's false. Again, whether he's guilty or not, only a jury can decide. But legally, I can tell you that is not how the classification system works under federal law. And it is pretty specific and pretty clear. And another part of this interview, which you might have noticed, was with Megyn Kelly, who used to clash with Trump and is one of several ex-Fox hosts that he's now sat down with. Trump says some things that relate to whether or not he knew he had to return the documents that the U.S. government and now an independent judge have deemed stolen material. But then there's a bit of a reversal.
But once you get a subpoena, you have to turn them over.
I know this. I don't even know that because I have the right to have those documents. So I don't really know that.
I know this. I don't know this. If you can combine those two sentences right in a row, I can tell you wouldn't be a very good witness at trial. He doesn't have to testify, but if he did and sounded like that, it would hurt him with a jury. Now, Smith can use these public statements with Donald Trump's own words. Indeed, as we discussed in a different context just earlier tonight as part of our special edition of The Beat, Jack Smith has already been pulling all sorts of statements from Donald Trump in public, sometimes in interviews like this, and in private, as evidence that they've gained. Including the admission, yes, you might remember this, a very important admission, that he didn't actually have endless authority to declassify those documents.
I have a big pile of papers. This thing just came out. Look, except it is like highly confidential. Yeah. All sorts of stuff. It's pages long. Look. Wait a minute. Let's see here. See, as president, I could have declassified. Yeah. Now I can't, you know. But this is classified.
Now I can't. Legal fact check, true. The voice you heard on that tape, where he didn't think anyone was listening in public in a private meeting, he may not have even realized that those tapes would be made and given over to the authorities or investigators, that is the sound of someone who evinces what I mentioned earlier, the correct knowledge that he was breaking the law, that he had something that wasn't his, that he had stolen it. That is bad if you're going to try to go convince a jury that this was all some sort of honest misunderstanding. This is key to Jack Smith's case, that the materials were not only wrongly held by Trump, that's kind of an external view, but that Trump knew they were wrongly held, which matters under the law. So that's where some of those statements are going. Then you have other people who were in the room, who were witnesses or sometimes co-defendants, and they're also implicating this defendant that we've seen sketched in federal court, defendant Trump. Consider one of the electors accused of fraud in Michigan, who is now telling anyone who will listen, including the court that will judge her, that she was acting only, quote, at the direction of Trump, saying that a Trump attorney went to the meeting they had with fraudulent electors and told them the performance of their duties were necessary on behalf of the president and the Constitution. Now, Georgia's electors, who are now in trouble, taking a similar tack. 3 of those co-defendants in that RICO case are discussing exactly how they ended up in the sauce. Meanwhile, there are some indications that the people in Georgia are turning against Trump. Even his number one, former Chief of Staff Meadows, says that's part of the defense strategy, arguing to court just last month when he finally took the stand that he was just doing his job. Well, that may not be a direct attack on Donald Trump, but if they determined that what he was doing was criminal and it was at the direction of Donald Trump, well, whether or not it was the right job to do or the legal job to do, it was a hit job of sorts against election integrity that he says came as part of working for President Trump. We also have been learning about how Fulton County was really full of grand jurors who wanted to go even farther than the DA did in this huge, sprawling RICO indictment. We've talked about just how many people are indicted, but we also learned that, although, again, I want to be very fair, the DA did not indict some of the people I'm about to mention. The grand jurors thought there was criminal evidence to do so against Senator Lindsey Graham, who also made some of those election calls. Now, Graham, on his side, has not only denied wrongdoing, but he has said something that, under this legal pressure, is related to the other folks I was just telling you about. He's gone out of his way to say something that, at a minimum, throws shade at his supposed political ally, Donald Trump, explicitly saying that what Trump did, demand that they find votes that weren't there for him, is not something Graham did.
My phone call was to find out what I should be doing as a senator. I never suggested anybody set aside the election. I never said go find votes.
I never said go find votes, which is exactly what Trump was caught saying on tape. And then you have the headlines about Proud Boys and Oath Keepers also invoking Trump as part of their defense. Those folks are going behind bars for a very long time, some of them spending over a decade in federal prison. The lesson there is that you can make these claims, and they may not save you, but the claims then become part of the record. When some of those accused Jan 6 insurrectionists, now convicted seditionists, were talking, Donald Trump hadn't been indicted of anything. And that's what's changed and what we're exploring tonight in our special. Everything changes when you have a looming criminal trial.